The machines were beeping.
Each beep stretched longer than the last, pulling at the silence like a drowning man clawing toward air. In the east wing of Crestfall Estate, where marble floors caught sunlight like frozen water and chandeliers hung heavy enough to crush skulls, no one moved. Declan Hawthorne stood 3 feet from the bed. His knuckles had gone white around the steel rail. The doctors wouldn't meet his eyes anymore. On the mattress, imported silk, 15,000 thread count, the kind of luxury that made magazines salivate, his wife was disappearing. Serafina's chest barely rose. Her lips had turned the color of ash. "You said you could fix this." Declan's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Men who owned skyscrapers didn't shout. They just made the room smaller. The lead physician swallowed hard. "We've tried everything Then try something you haven't." Behind a marble column near the doorway, a girl in an oversized uniform pressed her spine against cold stone. Her name was Iria Cruz. She was 14, and her fingertips were still stained black from the thing she'd found in the greenhouse. The thing no one else had noticed, the thing that was killing Serafina Hawthorne right now. Iria's pulse hammered against her ribs. She could feel the crushed leaf fragment in her apron pocket, sticky and bitter, like it was burning through the fabric. She'd seen the woman fall, watched her stumble between orchids glowing purple under heat lamps, watched her reach for a bench she never touched. And when security had swarmed in, when the alarm started screaming and men in suits appeared from nowhere, Iria had done what maids always did. She'd stepped back, stayed quiet, let the important people handle it. But her grandmother's voice wouldn't stop whispering in her skull. "Dark veins mean dark work, mija. You see sap that color, you run." Iria's fingers curled tighter around the leaf. Across the room, a man in a gray suit stood near the window. Calder Reeve, Declan's business partner. He wasn't watching Serafina, wasn't pacing, wasn't asking questions, just scrolling through his phone like he was waiting for a dinner reservation. The heart monitor shrieked once, a sharp, vicious sound that made everyone flinch. Serafina's body jerked, then went still. And Iria's hand, hidden in her pocket, closed around the poisoned leaf so hard the stem broke. The orchid was still wet. Iria had noticed it first because it didn't belong. She'd been dusting the wrought iron railings in the greenhouse, same as every Tuesday, letting the humid air press against her skin while rich people's plants stretched toward UV lights that cost more than her mother's car. Serafina Hawthorne liked to walk there in the mornings, alone. No assistants, no photographers. Just her and rows of imported flowers that had names Iria couldn't pronounce. That's when the stumble happened. Serafina's heel caught on nothing. Her hand shot out, fingers grasping, but the bench was too far. She went down hard, knees cracking against terracotta tile. Iria dropped the duster. "Mrs. Hawthorne!" She ran, shoes squeaking on wet stone, but before she reached her, Serafina's eyes rolled back, her mouth opened. No sound came out, just a thin line of foam at the corner of her lips. Iria screamed. Security came like wolves. 2 men in black suits lifted Serafina off the floor, while a third barked into a radio. Within 90 seconds, the greenhouse was flooded. Medics, assistants, someone shouting about calling Declan, and Iria, shoved toward the back wall by a guard who didn't bother learning her name, stood there shaking. That's when she saw it. Beneath the orchid table, half crushed under a designer heel, was a vine she'd never seen before. Thick as a finger, dark green, almost black, with veins that looked like they were filled with ink instead of sap. It was still oozing. Iria crouched low. The smell hit her first, sharp, bitter, wrong, like burnt rubber mixed with something rotten. Her grandmother used to dry plants in the backyard of their old house in Tobago, spreading them on metal sheets under the Caribbean sun. She'd taught Iria which ones healed fevers, which ones stopped bleeding, which ones you didn't touch unless you wanted your insides to twist. This one screamed poison. Iria's hand moved on instinct. She pinched a piece of the vine between 2 fingers and shoved it into her apron pocket before anyone turned around. Her heart was slamming so hard she thought the guards would hear it. By the time they cleared the greenhouse, Serafina was already on a stretcher, unconscious, barely breathing. And no one asked Iria a single question. She was just the maid's daughter, invisible. Back in the service hallway, Iria leaned against the wall and pulled the vine fragment from her pocket. The sap had already stained her fingers, dark, slick. It wouldn't wipe off. Her mother appeared at the end of the hall, eyes wide. "Iria, what happened?" Mrs. Hathorn collapsed. "I heard. They're saying it's some kind of seizure." Maribel Cruz grabbed her daughter's shoulders, scanning her face. "You okay?" Iria hesitated. She should tell her, should show her the vine, but her mother had worked at Crestfall for 6 years without a single complaint, without a single mistake. People like them didn't accuse Billionaire's plants of being poisonous. People like them kept their heads down. "I'm fine," Iria lied. Maribel didn't look convinced, but she nodded anyway. "Go wash up, stay out of the way." Iria nodded, but she didn't wash her hands. She went to the kitchen instead, where old Walter Pike was chopping onions with the kind of precision that came from 50 years of not cutting himself. He looked up when she walked in, knife pausing mid-stroke. "You look like you saw a ghost." Iria pulled the vine from her pocket and set it on the counter. Walter's face went pale. "Where did you get that?" "The greenhouse, where Mrs. Hathorn fell." He put the knife down slowly, shouldn't have touched it. "What is it?" Walter wiped his hands on a towel, staring at the plant like it might bite. "That's black marrow vine. Grows in swamps, some places in Louisiana, parts of the Caribbean. People used to call it the widowmaker." Iria's throat tightened. "Why?" "Because it kills slow, shuts down your organs one at a time, starts with paralysis, then your heart gives out." He looked at Iria. "How much did she touch?" "I don't know, maybe brushed against it?" "Doesn't take much." "Can it be stopped?" Walter didn't answer right away. He turned the fragment over with the tip of a spoon, careful not to let it touch his skin. "There's an old remedy, silverleaf dock. It grows wild near riverbanks. Used to be common knowledge before people forgot how to look." "Where?" "South of here, maybe 2 miles downriver." Iria's pulse quickened. "You sure?" "Sure it exists, yes. Sure it'll work?" Walter shook his head. "That's not my place to say." Upstairs, the alarms started again. Iria ran. She took the servants' stairs 2 at a time, apron flapping, lungs burning. By the time she reached the east wing, guards were already sealing the hallway. She shoved past a woman in scrubs and stopped dead when she saw Declan. He was standing in the doorway of Serafina's room, staring at the monitors like they were lying to him. A doctor stepped close. "Mr. Hathorn, we need to consider—" "Don't. Her organs are failing. We don't know what's causing it." "Then figure it out." Iria's hands shook. She took 1 step forward. A guard's palm hit her chest. "Back up." "I need to talk to him." "Not happening." "Please, move." Iria ducked under his arm and shouted, "She was poisoned." The hallway went silent. Every head turned. Declan's eyes locked on Iria, and the sap on Iria's fingers started to burn. Declan didn't blink. "Say that again?" Iria's voice cracked, but she forced the words out. "She didn't just collapse. There was a plant in the greenhouse. It shouldn't have been there." The doctor stepped forward, face tight. "Mr. Hawthorne, this girl—" "Let her talk." Iria's fingers fumbled with her apron pocket. She pulled out the crushed vine, holding it up like evidence in a trial she wasn't qualified to argue. "This was under the table where she fell. It's called black marrow vine. It's poisonous." One of the nurses made a small sound. The doctor's expression shifted, not belief, but something close. Doubt, maybe, enough to make him lean in. "Where did you hear that name?" "My grandmother. She grew up in Tobago. She knew plants." "And you think—" "I think someone put it there." The room exploded. 3 people started talking at once. A guard reached for Iria's arm. Another doctor stepped toward the vine like it might detonate. But Declan held up one hand, and everyone stopped. "Test it."
Sir, now. A lab technician appeared from nowhere, gloves already on. She took the fragment from Iria's hand with tweezers, sealing it in a plastic bag. 30 seconds later, she was gone. Declan turned back to Iria. If you're wrong, I'm not. You don't know that. I watched her fall. His jaw tightened. For a moment, Iria thought he might throw her out himself, but then his gaze shifted past her, landing on someone standing near the window. Calder Reeve. Still in his gray suit, still holding his phone, still not asking questions. Calder, Declan said slowly, you were in the greenhouse yesterday. Calder's head came up. His expression didn't change. Smooth, controlled, the kind of face that belonged in boardrooms. I was checking the irrigation system. You asked me to. Why? Because the orchids were dying. And you didn't think to mention it? I mentioned it to Serafina. Declan took a step closer. What did you touch? Nothing unusual. Did you bring anything in? Calder's mouth twitched, just once. Of course not. Iria's stomach dropped. She didn't know why, couldn't explain it, but something in the way he said it felt like glass cracking under pressure. The lab technician returned. Her face was white. Mr. Hawthorne, it's real, the plant. It matches trace compounds we found in Mrs. Hawthorne's blood work. The hallway turned into a furnace. Declan's voice went flat. Show me the footage. Sir? Now. 2 minutes later, a laptop appeared. The screen flickered to life, showing black and white surveillance of the greenhouse interior. Timestamp, yesterday, 4:47 p.m. Calder entered the frame. He walked to the orchid section, crouched low, pulled something from his jacket pocket, a small vial. He poured it near the base of the table, then crushed something with his shoe. The room went dead silent. Declan's hand shot out and grabbed Calder's collar. What did you do? Calder jerked back, eyes wide. You don't understand. What did you do? I thought she'd get sick, just sick enough to step back. So you killed her? I didn't think... You didn't think she'd die? I thought she'd get sick, just sick enough to step back. Declan's fist swung. It connected with Calder's jaw, a sound like a gunshot. Calder staggered, blood spraying from his mouth. Guards swarmed in, pinning his arms behind him. He didn't fight, just hung there gasping. And then the heart monitor in Serafina's room started screaming. A nurse bolted inside. Her shout came 3 seconds later. She's crashing! Declan grabbed the bed rail. Do something! We don't have an antidote. Then make one. It doesn't work like that. Iria's voice cut through the noise. There's a counterplant. Every head turned. What? Silverleaf dock. It grows near the river, 2 miles south. The doctor stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You can't be serious. It's real. I know where it is. This woman needs a hospital, not some folk remedy. She's dying right now. The monitor flatlined. One long, endless tone. The doctor cursed and started compressions. Declan looked at Iria, and for the first time since she'd entered the room, she saw something she recognized. Desperation. The car smelled like leather and panic. Iria sat in the back seat, knees pressed together, hands gripping the door handle while the driver took corners like he was being chased. Rain had started, thick, heavy drops that turned the windshield into a blur. Beside her, a security guard named Rashad kept glancing at his phone. They're doing CPR, he muttered. Iria didn't answer. She was too busy trying to remember everything her grandmother had said about Silverleaf Dock. Pale green stems, silver veins, grows where the water's slow and the soil's soft. But that was in Tobago. This was New York. How much farther? She asked. The driver checked the GPS. 1.5 miles. Faster. I'm already doing 70. Then do 80. Rashad gave her a look, half impressed, half terrified. You sure about this plant? No. Great. But I'm sure she'll die if we don't try. He didn't argue. The road turned to gravel, then dirt. Trees closed in on both sides, branches scraping the roof like claws. The Hudson River appeared through the rain, wide and gray and churning. The car stopped. This is it, the driver said. Iria shoved the door open and stumbled out into mud. Her shoes sank immediately. Rain soaked through her uniform in seconds, plastering her hair to her face. Rashad appeared beside her, flashlight in hand. "Where do we look?" Iria scanned the riverbank. Reeds, rocks, driftwood piled up like broken ribs. "There!" She pointed toward a cluster of plants growing near the water's edge, half submerged in silt. She ran. The mud tried to swallow her. Each step was a fight, her legs burning, rain hammering her shoulders. Rashad shouted something behind her, but she didn't stop. The plants were closer now. Pale green, thin stems. Iria dropped to her knees and dug her fingers into the mud, pulling at roots. The first one snapped. The second came loose, trailing black dirt and water. She held it up to the flashlight. Silver veins. "Got it!" Rashad was already on the phone. "We have it. Yeah, she found it. I don't know, some kind of marsh plant." Iria stood, clutching the root like a lifeline. And then her foot slipped. She went down hard, mud and water rushing over her head. The current wasn't strong, but it was fast enough to pull her sideways, dragging her toward deeper water. She couldn't breathe, couldn't see. Her hand opened, and the plant started to slip free. "No!" Iria's fingers clamped down. She kicked hard, breaking the surface, gasping. Rashad's hands shot out and grabbed her wrist, hauling her back onto solid ground. She was shaking, soaked, covered in mud, but she still had the plant. "Let's go!" Rashad shouted. They ran. The car was already moving before the doors closed. Tires spun, throwing mud, and then they were flying back up the road, rain hammering the windshield like bullets. Iria's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. "Do you have it?" Declan's voice, tight, raw. "Yes." "How long?" 10 minutes. She doesn't have 10 minutes. Iria's throat closed. "I'm trying." "Try faster." The line went dead. The driver floored it. Trees blurred past. The engine screamed. Iria pressed the plant against her chest, feeling the roots dig into her palms. "Please work, please." They hit the estate gates doing 60. Guards waved them through without stopping. The car skidded to a halt in front of the main entrance, and Iria was out before it fully stopped. She sprinted across marble floors, shoes leaving muddy streaks, security parting like water. The east wing doors were open. Inside, chaos. A doctor was pulling a syringe from a metal tray. Another was checking Serafina's pupils. Declan stood frozen at the foot of the bed, face carved from stone. Iria shoved the plant into the doctor's hands. "Silverleaf, doc." He stared at it. "You're serious?" "Test it, crush it, I don't care, just use it." The doctor looked at Declan. Declan nodded once. "Do it." The lab tech grabbed the plant and ran. 5 minutes. That's how long it took to extract the compounds, isolate the active elements, and prepare an injectable serum. 5 minutes that felt like 5 years. Iria stood in the corner, dripping mud on priceless carpet, watching the monitors. Serafina's heartbeat was barely there, a ghost pulse. The doctor returned, syringe in hand. "This is experimental, untested. If it doesn't work, inject it," Declan said. The needle went into Serafina's IV port. Clear liquid disappeared into her veins. And then, nothing. The monitors didn't change. Her chest didn't rise. Iria's hands started to shake. "I was wrong. I killed her." And then, Serafina coughed. It was small, weak, but real. Her fingers twitched. The heart monitor beeped, once, twice, steady. The doctor exhaled so hard it sounded like a sob. Declan dropped into a chair, hands covering his face, and Iria, still dripping mud and river water, felt her legs give out. She slid down the wall and sat on the floor. Alive. Serafina Hawthorne was alive. But across the room, through the open doorway, Iria saw something that made her blood freeze. Calder Reeve, hands cuffed, being led toward the elevators. He looked back, just once, and smiled. The estate didn't sleep. Even at 3 in the morning, lights blazed in every hallway. Security moved in packs. Phones rang in distant rooms. Somewhere on the 3rd floor, lawyers were already drafting statements. Iria sat in a chair outside Serafina's room, wrapped in a blanket someone had thrown over her shoulders. Her clothes were still damp, her hands still shook. No one had told her to leave, so she didn't. Inside, Serafina was breathing on her own now, stable. The doctors had stopped hovering. Declan hadn't moved from her bedside in 2 hours. A nurse stepped out, saw Iria, and paused. "You should go home." "I'm okay." "You look exhausted." "I'm okay." The nurse didn't push. She just nodded and walked away. Iria leaned her head back against the wall and closed her eyes. She didn't hear the footsteps until they stopped right in front of her. "You saved my wife." Iria's eyes snapped open. Declan Hawthorne stood there, still in the same shirt he'd been in when Serafina collapsed. It was wrinkled now, stained with something dark near the collar. He looked smaller than he had before. I remembered what my grandmother said. Most people wouldn't have." Iria didn't know what to say to that. Declan sat down in the chair beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "Calder's talking. Lawyers are trying to get him a deal. What did he say? That he didn't mean it to go this far, that he panicked, that I should have seen it coming. That's not your fault, isn't it?" You looked at her. "I trusted him, gave him access to everything, my business, my home, my wife." His voice cracked. "And I didn't notice." Iria thought about the greenhouse, about Calder standing by the window while Serafina fought for her life. "He hid it," she said. "That's what people like him do." Declan was quiet for a long time. Then he stood. "What do you want?" Iria blinked. "What?" "You saved her life. Name it. College tuition, a house. I'll write the check right now." Iria's chest tightened. She thought about her mother working 60-hour weeks just to keep them in a one-bedroom apartment. Thought about the scholarship application she'd filled out last month, knowing she'd probably never hear back. But she also thought about the way Declan had looked at her in the hallway. Like she mattered. Like she wasn't invisible. "I don't want money," she said. Declan frowned. "Then what?" "I want people to believe me next time." His expression shifted. Something close to understanding. Done. He walked back into Serafina's room, and Iria sat there alone in the hallway, wondering if she had just made the smartest decision of her life, or the worst. But the question no one was asking was this: if Calder had been planning this for weeks, what else had he set in motion?
The interrogation room smelled like sweat and cheap coffee. Calder sat at a metal table, hands cuffed to a bolt in the center. His suit jacket was gone, his tie hung loose. There was dried blood at the corner of his mouth from where Declan had hit him. Across from him, 2 detectives sat with folders open. "Let's try this again," the first one said. "When did you decide to poison Serafina Hawthorne?" Calder leaned back. "I didn't decide, it just happened. Poisoning someone doesn't just happen. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Enlighten us." Calder's mouth twisted. "Declan and I built that company together, 15 years. I was there when we had nothing, when we were pitching investors out of a rented office with no heat." His voice rose. "And then he married her, and suddenly everything I said got filtered through Serafina first. So you killed her." "I didn't kill her. She's alive, isn't she?" "Because a 14-year-old girl saved her." Calder flinched. The second detective leaned forward. "Here's what we know. You purchased black marrow vine extract from an underground supplier 3 weeks ago. You introduced it into the greenhouse irrigation system. You waited." She topped the folder. "That's premeditation. That's attempted murder. It was supposed to make her sick, that's all. Sick enough to die. Sick enough to step back." The first detective closed the folder. "You're done." Calder's face went pale. "Wait, I can cooperate. I can tell you things." "What things?" "About the business, about Declan, about deals you don't even know about." "We're not interested in corporate fraud." "You should be." The detectives exchanged a look. "What are you talking about?" Calder smiled. And that's when Iria, watching through the one-way glass with Declan beside her, felt her stomach drop. "She's lying," she whispered. Declan's face was stone. "How do you know?" "Because he's still smiling." Inside the room, Calder leaned forward. "I'm not the only one who wanted Serafina out of the picture." The detective frowned. "Explain." "There's a board meeting next week. Merger vote. Serafina was the tie-breaker." Calder's eyes glittered. "And there are people who would have paid a lot of money to make sure she wasn't there to cast it." "Names." "I'll give you names, but I want immunity." The detective stood. "We're done here." Wait, you just tried to buy your way out of attempted murder with a conspiracy theory. We're done. They left. Calder sat there, alone, still smiling. And through the glass, Iria watched him. He's telling the truth, she said. Declan turned sharply. What? Not about immunity, but about the board. Someone else wanted her gone. That's insane. Is it? Declan stared at her, then pulled out his phone. 3 calls later, he had the board meeting schedule pulled up. 7 members, 1 vote. Serafina was listed as the deciding factor on a merger worth $3 billion. Who benefits if the merger goes through? Iria asked. Declan scrolled and stopped. His face went white. No. What? He turned the phone toward her. On the screen was a name and a photo of someone Iria had seen before, standing in the hallway outside Serafina's room, watching, waiting. The same person who'd been the first to suggest Serafina's collapse was just a seizure. The same person who told doctors to stop looking for poison. Dr. Langston Pierce, Serafina's personal physician, the man who'd been treating her for 6 months, the man who had access to her medical records, her medications, her blood work. Declan's hand started shaking. He's still in the building. Iria's pulse spiked. Where? 3rd floor, private office. They ran, but when they burst through the office door 60 seconds later, it was empty. The desk was clean. The computer was gone, and on the wall, in dry erase marker, someone had written 2 words, "Too late." The window was open, rain poured in, and somewhere in the distance, a car engine roared to life. Who else was hunting Serafina Hawthorne? The tire tracks were still fresh. Declan stared at them, rain washing the tread marks into mud, while security swarmed the parking lot below. Red and blue lights painted the estate walls. Someone was shouting coordinates into a radio. Iria stood beside him, soaked again, watching a black sedan disappear into the trees. He knew we were coming, she said. Declan's phone rang. He answered without looking. Talk. The voice on the other end was clipped, professional. Dr. Pierce's car just passed the north gate. He's heading towards the interstate. Stop him. Sir, we don't have authority to. I don't care what you have. Stop him. Declan hung up and turned to Rashad. Get me in a car now. Mr. Hawthorne, the police are already. I said now. 60 seconds later, they were moving. Iria sat in the back seat again, gripping the handle while Declan rode shotgun, phone pressed to his ear. The driver, a different one this time, younger, faster, took corners like he was trying to break the suspension. Where is he? Declan barked into the phone. Route 9, southbound, doing 90. How far ahead? 3 miles, maybe less. Declan's jaw clenched. Close it. The engine roared. Iria's heart was slamming against her ribs. She didn't know why she was here, didn't know why Declan had let her get in the car, but when he'd turned towards the elevator, she'd followed, and he hadn't told her to stop. Now she was hunting a man who'd tried to kill someone, and she was 14. Why would he do it? She asked. Declan didn't look back. Money, power, pick one. But he was her doctor. That's exactly why. The headlights caught something up ahead, a sedan weaving between lanes, hazard lights flashing. That's him, the driver said. Declan leaned forward. Box him in. 2 black SUVs appeared from side roads, flanking the sedan. Dr. Pierce swerved right, then left, but there was nowhere to go. The SUVs closed in like jaws. And then he slammed the brakes. The sedan skidded sideways, tires screaming, and crashed into the guardrail. Metal shrieked, glass exploded. Steam hissed from the hood. Their car stopped 30 feet away. Declan was out before the engine died. Iria followed. The rain was heavier now, turning the asphalt into a black mirror. Dr. Pierce stumbled out of the wrecked sedan, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. He took 3 steps and collapsed. Declan reached him first. He grabbed the doctor's collar and hauled him upright. Why? Dr. Pierce coughed. Blood flecked his lips. You don't understand. Try me. The merger, it wasn't just business. There were people, investors. They needed Serafina gone. Who? I can't. Declan slammed him against the guardrail. Who? Dr. Pierce's eyes rolled. They'll kill me. I'll kill you first. Marlowe, Vincent Marlowe. The name hit like a gunshot. Declan went still. Iria had heard that name before, seen it in the business section of newspapers her mother brought home. Vincent Marlowe, hedge fund billionaire, philanthropist, the kind of man who shook hands with presidents. He hired you? Declan's voice was ice. Dr. Pierce nodded, gasping. 6 months ago, said Serafina was going to tank the merger, said if I could incapacitate her, just long enough for the vote. He coughed again. I didn't know Calder was going to... You poisoned her? No, I adjusted her medications, made her weak, confused. I thought she'd step down voluntarily. And when she didn't? Dr. Pierce didn't answer. Declan's fist pulled back. Iria grabbed his arm. Don't. He looked at her, eyes wild. He's not worth it. For a moment, she thought he'd swing anyway, but then he let go. Dr. Pierce crumpled to the ground. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Declan pulled out his phone and dialed. I need a warrant. Vincent Marlowe. Everything. Bank records, emails, phone logs. I don't care what it takes. He paused, because he just tried to kill my wife. He hung up and looked at Iria. You should be home. So should you. This isn't your fight. I found the poison. I found the cure. It's my fight too. Declan stared at her for a long moment, then nodded once. Let's go. They drove back to the estate in silence. By the time they arrived, dawn was breaking. Pink light bled across the horizon, turning the glass walls gold. Inside, Serafina was awake. Iria stopped in the doorway, breath catching. Serafina sat propped against pillows, face pale but alive. Her eyes found Iria immediately. You're the girl who saved me. Iria nodded, throat tight. Serafina's hand lifted, shaking. Come here. Iria crossed the room slowly. Serafina took her hand. Her grip was weak but real. Thank you. Iria didn't trust her voice. She just nodded again. Behind them, Declan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, and his face went white. What? Serafina asked. Declan turned the phone around. On the screen was a news alert. Breaking. Billionaire Vincent Marlowe found dead in apartment, apparent suicide. The room went silent. Iria's stomach dropped. He killed himself? Serafina whispered. Declan scrolled. That's what they're saying. Do you believe it? He didn't answer, because at the bottom of the article was a single line. Marlowe left no note. Police are investigating. And Iria, staring at the screen, felt ice crawl up her spine. Because someone who kills themselves usually leaves a reason, unless someone else had done it for them. The injection burnt. Serafina gasped, fingers digging into the bedsheets while the doctor withdrew the syringe. Clear liquid disappeared into her veins, chasing the last traces of poison from her blood. That's the final dose. You should start feeling stronger in a few hours. Serafina nodded, but her hand was still shaking. Declan stood at the window, staring out at the estate grounds. Police were still there. Crime scene tape fluttered near the greenhouse. Reporters had started gathering at the gates. They're calling it a conspiracy, he quieted. Is it? I don't know anymore. Across the room, Iria sat in a corner, knees pulled to her chest. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten,
just sat there replaying everything in her head. Calder's smile, Dr. Pierce's confession, Vincent Marlowe's body. It didn't add up. "Mr. Hawthorne," she said. He turned. "What if Marlowe didn't kill himself?" The room went quiet. "The police said." "The police don't know what we know." Declan crossed his arms. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Marlowe hired Dr. Pierce. Calder acted alone. But what if there's someone else, someone who wanted both of them gone?" Serafina sat up straighter. "You think someone's cleaning up?" "I think someone's scared." Declan's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face changed. "When?" A pause. "I'm on my way." He hung up. "Calder's lawyer just requested an emergency hearing. He says he has information, names, proof. He's trying to make a deal." "Don't let him." "I won't." But Iria stood. "You should." Declan frowned. "Why?" "Because if he talks, we'll know who else is involved. And if he's lying, then we're exactly where we are now." Declan stared at her, then nodded. "Let's go." The courthouse smelled like floor polish and fear. Iria sat in the gallery, watching Calder shuffle into the room in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed. He looked smaller now, beaten. But when his eyes swept the room, they landed on Declan, and he smiled. The judge banged the gavel. "Mr. Reeve, your attorney claims you have information relevant to an ongoing investigation." Calder leaned toward the microphone. "I do." "Proceed." "I wasn't working alone." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged the gavel again. "Order." Calder waited for silence, then continued. "Vincent Marlowe paid me $50,000 up front, another $100 when the job was done." He paused, but Marlowe wasn't the only one. The prosecutor demanded, "Who else?" Calder's smile widened. "Someone on your board, Mr. Hawthorne, someone who's been there from the beginning." Declan stood. "Name them." "Not yet. Name them." The judge slammed the gavel. "Mr. Hawthorne, sit down." But Declan didn't move, and Calder, still smiling, leaned back in his chair. "Give me immunity, and I'll tell you everything." The prosecutor hesitated, then nodded. "Deal." Calder exhaled and said one name, Amara Langston. The room went silent. Iria's blood turned cold.
The woman's hand was steady. Serafina tried to move, but her body wouldn't respond. The medications had left her weak, slow. Amara Langston smiled. "I'm sorry it had to be this way." Serafina's voice cracked. "Why?" "Because you were going to destroy everything." Amara uncapped the syringe. "The merger goes through, and I walk away with $40 million. You vote no, and I get nothing. So you kill me?" "So I fix the problem." The needle came closer. Serafina tried to scream, but her throat closed. And then the door exploded inward. Rashad hit Amara like a freight train, slamming her into the wall. The syringe flew from her hand, skittering across the floor. Amara screamed, clawing at his face, but 2 more guards piled in. Within seconds, she was on the ground, arms pinned behind her back. Serafina gasped, tears streaming down her face. Rashad kicked the syringe away. "You okay?" She nodded, shaking. And then Declan was there, crashing through the door, eyes wild. "Serafina!" "I'm okay." Her voice broke. "I'm okay." He dropped to his knees beside the bed, hands gripping hers. And for the first time since this started, he broke. His shoulders shook, no sound, just silent, wrecking sobs. Serafina pulled him close. Behind them, Amara was being dragged out, still screaming. "You don't understand. The merger was going to save the company." Declan's voice was ice. "Get her out of my sight." The door slammed, and the room fell silent. Iria appeared in the doorway, breathless, mud still on her shoes. Serafina saw her and smiled through tears. "You saved me again." Iria shook her head. "I just made a phone call. That's all it took." Declan stood, wiping his face. He looked at Iria for a long moment, then crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. She froze. No one had ever hugged her like that before, like she mattered, like she was family. When he let go, his voice was rough. "What do you want?" Iria blinked. "You already asked me that. And you said you wanted people to believe you. I'm asking again." She thought about her mother working doubles just to pay rent, about scholarship applications that never got responses, about being invisible. "I want to go to school," she said. "A good one. I want to learn everything." Declan nodded. "Done. And I want my mom to stop working so hard." "Done. And I want—" She hesitated. "Say it." "I want to help people, like I helped Mrs. Hawthorne. I want to know plants, medicine, real stuff, not just what my grandmother taught me." Declan's eyes softened. "Then we'll build you a lab." Iria's breath caught. "What?" "A research facility, full funding. You run it. You decide what to study." He looked at Serafina. "We'll call it the Cruz Institute." Serafina smiled. "Perfect." Iria couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. All she could do was nod. Outside, dawn was breaking again, the second sunrise since Serafina had collapsed. And this time, the light felt different, warmer, like hope. But one question still remained. How many others had Amara and Marlowe paid off? The estate was quiet again. Not the suffocating kind, the peaceful kind. Iria stood in the greenhouse alone, staring at the spot where Serafina had fallen. The black marrow vine was gone now, destroyed, every trace of poison scrubbed from the soil. In its place, someone had planted white roses. She heard footsteps behind her. Serafina appeared, leaning on a cane but walking on her own. Color had returned to her face, strength to her voice. "I thought I'd find you here." Iria turned. "How are you feeling?" "Alive, thanks to you." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Serafina spoke again. "Declan told me about the institute. Are you ready?" Iria nodded. "I think so." "Good, because we're going to need people like you." Serafina's eyes were serious now. "People who see what others miss, people who speak up even when they're scared." "I was terrified." "I know, but you did it anyway," Serafina smiled. "That's courage." Iria looked down at her hands. The stains from the black marrow vine were finally gone. What happened to Calder and Amara? Prison, both of them. Calder got 20 years, Amara got 30. Serafina's voice hardened. "And we found 4 other board members who were taking money from Marlowe. They're all gone now." "And the merger?" "Voted down, unanimously." Iria exhaled. It was over. Really over. "What about you?" Serafina asked. "What are you going to do now?" Iria thought about it. About the scholarship letter that had arrived yesterday. Full ride to boarding school, then college, then medical school if she wanted it. About the lab Declan was building, the research grant with her name on it. About her mother who'd cried for an hour when Declan told her she could retire. "I'm going to learn," Iria said. "Everything I can. And then I'm going to help people." Serafina's smile widened. "I believe you." They walked back toward the house together. Inside, Declan was on the phone, pacing near the windows. When he saw them, he hung up. "The press wants a statement." Serafina sighed. "Tell them the truth. A 14-year-old girl saved my life because she paid attention when no one else did." Declan looked at Iria.
You okay with that? Iria hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I'm okay with it. That evening, the press broke. Every major outlet ran it. The girl who saved the billionaire, the maid's daughter who knew medicine, the quiet voice that stopped a murder. Iria's phone exploded with messages, but she didn't read them. She was too busy sitting in the estate library, surrounded by books on botany and toxicology and pharmacology, soaking up every word. Because she'd learned something in the past 72 hours. The smallest voice in the room could change everything, if you are brave enough to use it. 3 months later, the Cruise Institute opened its doors. It was small, just 2 buildings on the edge of the estate grounds, but it was real. Iria stood in the main lab staring at rows of plants under grow lights, silver-leaf dock, medicinal herbs from 6 continents, samples she'd collected herself. Declan appeared in the doorway. How's it feel? Iria smiled. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. He nodded. Good, because we just got our first case. Already? A kid in Boston, rare blood disorder. Doctors are stumped. Doctors are stumped. He handed her a file. They heard about you. Want to know if you have any ideas. Iria opened the file, read the symptoms, and felt something click. I think I do. Declan grinned. Then get to work. He left, and Iria, standing in her lab with dirt under her nails and hope in her chest, got to work. Because sometimes the smallest person no one expects is exactly the person the world needs. And sometimes a strange herb from the riverbank is all it takes to change everything. The end. If this story inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could change the way you see the world. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever spoken up when everyone else stayed silent? Your story might inspire someone who needs to hear it. Let's build a community where courage grows.